There are some people whose names echo louder than their own voices ever could. Ozzy Osbourne is one of them. The moment that name leaves your lips, you remember something. A sound, scream, a stage dive, or maybe just that unforgettable, chaotic smirk. Ozzy was more than just a rock star. He was a force. A man who took all the chaos inside his soul and blasted it into the world for generations to feel. But behind the madness was a man, a family, a legacy, and that legacy is maybe hanging by a thread. Today, what Ozzy Osbourne built with blood, music, and sacrificed the empire he raised with Sharon by his side is facing something he couldn't have predicted at the height of his fame. A loss so massive, it doesn't just cost money, it shakes the ground beneath generations. This isn't just another celebrity headline. This is about how one of the most legendary families in music history might lose tens of millions, not from indulgence, not from addiction, not even from scandal, but from something far more terrifying: time and life itself. The Osbournes lived like royalty, and for a while, they truly were. In the early 2000s, they weren't just a rock family. They were America's reality TV obsession. The Osbournes show aired, and suddenly, everyone needed a glimpse inside the gothic, wild, funny world of that iconic LA mansion. People laughed at Ozzy mumbling around with a remote in hand, swooned over Sharon's fierce wit, and watched Jack and Kelly grow up between chaos and charm. What followed were years of endless ventures. From music releases to television deals, book contracts, fashion lines, brand endorsements, public appearances, the Osbournes became a high-functioning empire. Not perfect, not without battles, but still stable in their own way. Behind that glam, though, was Sharon. The quiet engine, the warrior wife, the woman with the steel nerves. She was never just Ozzy's wife. She was his manager, protector, negotiator. While Ozzy was the devil on stage, she was the angel with a calculator behind the curtain. Sharon crafted his brand, pulled him out of business disasters, and made smart moves that often saved the family from ruin. But even Sharon can't control everything, and now insiders say the Osbourne family might be staring down a financial black hole, one that could swallow tens of millions of dollars almost overnight. To understand how they got here, we have to talk about the move, the one that everyone in Hollywood whispered about, but few truly understood. In 2023, the Osbournes made a stunning announcement. They were leaving Los Angeles, trading their beloved mansion and celebrity lifestyle to return to the UK. It seemed like a sentimental decision. Ozzy's health had been declining, and he missed the feel of England beneath his boots. Sharon spoke about going home, and to the public it felt sweet, nostalgic, even noble, but behind the warmth was something else. Something cold and financial and frightening. You see, the Osbournes weren't just leaving a home, they were liquidating untold value. Real estate investments, intellectual property, production assets, and tax structures that had been carefully built over decades suddenly being uprooted. And in today's global economy, that kind of shift, that kind of movement can spark aftershocks. And it did. All signs point to the fact that Mert, by choosing to move their base of operations out of Hollywood and back to the UK, the Osbournes may have triggered a multi-layered financial loss with potentially irreversible effects. Not just from the sell-off of assets at a time when markets are volatile. Not just from the downgrade of branding potential in the US media circuits, but from something far more painful. Ozzy's health, you see. When Ozzy's health issues intensified, spinal surgeries, Parkinson's disease, mobility struggles, deals began to fall apart. Touring, which once brought in $50 to $70 million in gross revenue per cycle, was over. Not postponed, not restructured, over. Merchandise, licensing, meet and greets, all tied to the identity of Ozzy as an active performer, came to a halt. And so the income dried. But the spending didn't. The staff, the estate costs on both sides of the Atlantic, the medical expenses, the security. The operation of Osbourne Media, legal fees, ongoing production commitments, they all continued. Quietly, monthly, like water dripping through a cracked ceiling. Drop by drop, until the floors give out. And that's where the reports of a financial collapse begin. Insiders close to the family hint that the losses may be as high as $30 to $50 million, depending on what investments can be salvaged. Book projects that haven't sold. Syndication rights that expired. Reality shows pitched but never picked up. Deals inked and later dropped. And perhaps most haunting, the value of Ozzy's musical catalog. Rumors have circled for years that Sharon had considered selling parts of Ozzy's master rights. Record executives have offered massive sums for legacy catalogs, especially stars from Ozzy's generation. But Sharon never pulled the trigger. Some say it was pride. Some say she was waiting for the right buyer. Others say it felt too much like preparing for the end. But now, that catalog could become the last string holding the financial fabric together, and it raises the most human, heartbreaking question of all. When does protecting a legacy mean letting go of it? It's one thing to talk numbers and losses on paper, but behind every million is a memory. Every tour that won't happen is a show Ozzy won't feel again. Every album that won't release, a story that won't get told. There were whispers of retirement years ago, but Ozzy never wanted to stop. His body betrayed him long before his spirit would have. And that makes this loss not just financial. It's a grieving of life, of time, of strength, of power. Ozzy spent decades building an identity no illness could take from him. But money, it disappears in silence. There are no cheers when the last dollar leaves the vault, and now fans wonder, can Sharon fix it? Again? It wouldn't be the first time she's pulled a miracle. In the late 90s, when people thought Ozzy was done, she reinvented Ozfest. When they said reality TV would ruin his mystique, she turned their family into a pop culture phenomenon. When cancer tried to take her, she stood up on air the day after chemo and smiled. But even warriors get tired. And watching someone you love fading while you're forced to navigate millions, contracts and collapsing plans, it's enough to crack even the strongest soul. Of course, they have not declared bankruptcy. They still have resources. They still have power, but the whispers are growing louder. Tens of millions gone. Like a chilling headline that keeps repeating in studios and streaming rooms behind closed doors. And it begs the question, is this what legend costs? Is this the true bill for living loud, brave, iconic, and raw? Because the Osbournes lived without apology. They gave us moments, messy, funny, wild, real. They never pretended to be perfect. In fact, that's why we loved them. Ozzy didn't sell us polish. He sold us truth, wrapped in metal grit. Sharon didn't sell image, she sold protection. And Jack and Kelly, they grew up in front of us, wounded, yes, but also wide awake to the truth of fame. If there's a lesson in this, it's not just about riches lost or business choices gone wrong. It's about what remains when the machine starts slowing down. What lasts? For Ozzy, maybe it's the fact that even now, fans call him the Prince of Darkness with love, not fear. Maybe it's the thousands of voices that still scream his lyrics in bars across the world. Maybe it's knowing that your music helped millions of kids survive angry homes and lonely nights. That's not something you can lose, not even with tens of millions gone. And for Sharon, maybe what remains is legacy. Not just Ozzy's, but her own. The woman who kept him alive longer than anyone thought she could. The woman who made sure the world never forgot his name as the Osbournes stand at this painful financial crossroads. With aging bodies and vanishing contracts, they remind us of something unbearably human. Fame fades. Money flees, strength crumbles. But love stays. That mansion may go. The tours may never return. The heirs might inherit less than expected. But long after the accountants leave, long after the last Spotify stream, there will still be someone sitting in their car, hearing Ozzy's voice crack through a speaker, thinking, that saved me. That was mine. And in the end, maybe that is wealth. Maybe that's the part no one can steal. Life's not fair. Fame is fleeting. Legacy. That's what you choose to protect, even when it costs you everything. This is the story of Ozzy Osbourne, the legend who sang for darkness but lived in the light, and the family who gave him everything, even when the world began taking it back. If this story moved you, hit subscribe, because around here we don't just follow stars, we honor them.